Greetings everyone, I'm Mar, and once again, this is my opinion. Before I get too far in the video, I'd like to apologize for my infrequent uploads. I know recently I've been doing my God of War, commas, 4 Let's Play through the streaming, which I'll probably be doing another part in a couple nights. But I haven't been doing a lot of, in front of the camera videos. The last one was the review I did of one of these Steven Universe episodes. And for this, I'd like to apologize. It's just that nearing the end of term and now college is starting to kick my butt a little bit. And combined with the fact that we recently switched jobs and I'm still kind of getting used to juggling everything with the different schedule, going from working days to working swing will do that to you, and trying to balance everything else on my off days and through my other time. It's a juggling act, but I'm managing. And I can honestly say now, Mike Brown, OCP Communications, I now identify fully with what you have been talking about in both your normal videos and whenever you mention it on your Uncovering Unexplained Mysteries podcast. You got more classwork to do, but I can understand just from the juggling of work and the school how much of a you-know-what that probably will be once I get to that level, so we're doing our best. That said, as you can tell from the title up there, it's now another Dragon Ball Super video. Now, unlike the last couple arcs, I decided I'll do 2 videos related to this one. I'll do one for the first part and then one for the second part. Now, of course, the Dragon Ball Super dub is on the Goku Black arc. Now, I did not watch the entire arc when it debuted in Japan. I watched individual scenes, so in that regard, my view on how the arc progresses is a little different than other fans. But I could see where a lot of them are coming from this far, because this arc does have some good ideas, but I can understand the fan complaints about how some of it seems a little convoluted, especially with where the last episode I've watched at the time of this recording left off. For those of you wondering, this video is going to encompass my thoughts from the beginning of the arc to right when we find out exactly who Goku Black is. So a lot of information. Now, this arc features the return of fan favorite Future Trunks. We have not seen Future Trunks in any canon material since he destroyed Cell and the androids in his future time. I mean, he had a cameo in the BoJack Unbound movie, which you can kind of consider that canon to the animes a little bit, because he didn't mention he was going to go back in time, so he could have theoretically done that, and they just don't talk about it. But for the sake of argument, I'm just going to put that on the back burner. Now, we start by going back into Trunks' future, and it's a mess again, because a new enemy has appeared, and that enemy is Goku Black. A being that looks like Goku, is super strong like Goku, but is not Goku. Because he is one thing that Goku would not be. In the words of Jim Cornette, he's a heel! And he's massacred humanity, and he is constantly beating Trunks up. In their first confrontation, I could say Sean did an excellent job portraying Goku Black. It's kind of similar to the voice he gave Super Saiyan 3 Goku during his first appearance in the original dub of Z. But there's a little difference to it. Whereas Super Saiyan 3 Goku, you could tell, was just Goku putting on a facade for Boo and the others. With Black, you really get a sense of menace underneath his voice. And just the way he enunciates the lines, like, ooh, this guy's bad. He's radiating evilness. And he pushes Trunks to the point where he has to retreat back to the past at the cost of future Bulma's life. And of course, he has a little bit of minor shell shock, which, when he attacks Goku upon seeing him, you can understand why. He's associated that face with so much that it takes him a moment to realize, oh yeah, I'm in the past. He explains to everyone what's going on, and they decide to help him again. Of course, Vegeta does what Vegeta does. But unlike the last time Trunks came, he's a little bit more open to Trunks since he has changed his character development in the 7 years and during the Buu Saga. So he's more like a father here, but still being a Saiyan, he's still going to have that tough love thing, which I think is personified in the scene where they're training and he's basically beating the crap out of Trunks in his blue form, and he tells him what's going to happen with the next threat, and the next threat, and the next threat. Now, Trunks has gained a lot of power since then. He has achieved Super Saiyan 2, which he did during the fight with Babidi and Dabura in the future, which I'm glad they actually addressed that and didn't just skim over it. That happened, but he managed to destroy them. At the cost of his Supreme Kai, it seems, but, sacrifices have to be made. And of course, everyone knows Shin was not doing the best job as a Supreme Kai compared to the other universes, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. And his Super Saiyan 2 power seems like he's stronger than Goku, as a Super Saiyan 2, but not stronger than his Super Saiyan 3 form. That's the impression I got, at least from their spar, but it could be that Goku was just humoring him, because he did knock him out easily with Super Saiyan 3, but that's to be expected, because it's a transformation higher. But who knows, maybe there's someone as a normal Super Saiyan who could give Goku a run for his money in Super Saiyan 3. It's one of those things that we'd have to see happen, even though some fans would still complain about that. Now, the main part of this arc is that, at least this section of the arc, is that everyone's trying to figure out exactly who Goku Black is, because when he comes to the past and they see him, they know he looks like Goku, he talks like Goku, he fights similar to Goku, but they know he's not Goku through his actions, but they gotta figure out who is this guy. And what piques everyone's interest is that Whis states that his power feels similar to that of a Supreme Kai in training named Zamasu. Now I know some people are going to go, the U is silent, it's in Japanese. Yes, I know it is silent, but the dub is pronouncing the U, so since this is more based on the dub, I'm going to pronounce it Zamasu. One question I'd love to ask the people of Funimation is why they decided to pronounce the U when it's obviously silent. Maybe as a little in joke to the little controversy people have with it, or maybe just for simplicity's sake. Maybe it helps match the lip flaps better, I don't know. They go meet Zamasu. Goku spars with him. It seems his injury is similar yet different, but it turns out he has nefarious intentions. He hates mortals, which, given how mortals are just looking at humans, you can understand where he's coming from. I mean, in Age of Ultron, Ultron was only on the internet for less than 10 seconds and he already hated humanity. So being on the level of Supreme Kai that can live for thousands if not millions of years, you can understand why he would question it. And he's even questioning Goasu, his mentor, like, why do we put up with mortals when they do all this damage? And of course he explains, it is the job of a Supreme Kai to create and watch. It is a destroyer's job to destroy. It seems that Zamasu would rather be a destroyer, so I'm surprised he didn't try to go and become an apprentice destroyer, but maybe the destroyer saw that his intentions were too nefarious, because as a destroyer, you got to not only destroy stuff, but you also got to do it in a balanced way, which is part of the reason why Beerus is not that good of a destroyer when it comes to actually doing his job. I mean, he does do his job on occasions, like we see later in this arc, but that's more for self-preservation than him doing his actual job. Zamasu feels that no mortal should exist, which is why he wants to eventually take over his Supreme Kai position by killing Goasu. Our main heroes manage to stop that, and this is where we actually see just how badass Beerus can be when he actually intends. I mean, we already got a feeling of that in the first arc, and we saw little hints of it in later arcs, but here, he just easily blocks Zamasu's attack and destroys him. And I do like that they actually had the voice actor for Beerus say Hakai instead of destroy. I mean, it works either way, but there's just something about the way you say Hakai before you destroy someone. I mean, he doesn't have as deep a voice as the voice actor in Japanese, but just hearing him go Hakai, that got me like, ooh. One would think that ends it, but nope. Multiverse theory is a bitch. And I love that they even have to have a discussion about this, where Beerus is like, are you questioning a destroyer? And Trunks has to be all nice, like, no, I'm not questioning you. I'm just saying, from what I know about time travel, this should not have worked. And it's right, it didn't work. Now, they have several trips into the future. One time, Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks go to try to kick Goku Black's butt, and it works for a little bit, but then Goku Black achieves his own Super Saiyan form. It's essentially his version of Super Saiyan God, but instead of blue, it's rose. But they pronounce it Rose, which I guess started as a running gag, so maybe it's Funimation going with the joke. But there's just something about the way you say Rose. It's pretentious, but for a being like Goku Black, it's the right amount of pretentiousness. And I do like how Sean modifies his Goku Black voice just slightly. He adds a little bit of posh and upperclassness to his Goku Black voice. You still sense the evilness there, but you also get the pretentiousness and overconfidence. And of course, it goes with what we find out about Goku Black. At first, we find out that he's actually working with future Zamasu, who is immortal, which makes fighting him harder. I mean, the heroes might be stronger than him, but it's hard to defeat a foe who you're stronger than if he's immortal. But Goku Black becomes stronger than them. He beats the crap out of Vegeta, so they have to retreat. When they come back, that's when they find out the truth after they thought they found out the truth, and that is, I know this is going to be a spoiler for those who haven't actually watched the arc, but most fans who are probably watching this video already know this little detail, and that is that Goku Black is actually Zamasu. Which, this is one thing when I heard that, I'm like, How are they going to explain this? And from what little I remember, because I haven't watched the dub version yet, it is a convoluted explanation, which has me scratching my head like, wait a minute here. I know multiverse theory is a bitch, like I said, but how does this work exactly? Is it all going along the path that these different timelines are still running forward, so when one thing happens another one can react off it? That's just my guess on that, but we'll see how the dub handles the explanation when I get around to watching the episodes. Another thing I like is that we do see the genius of Bulma here, both future and current Bulma. Current Bulma, when she sees the time machine, she's like, oh boy, this is going to be a project. And she couldn't really tackle it well, but then once she gets future Bulma's note, she can, which just shows how much future Bulma was working on this machine in the original timeline, that she really wanted to make this machine. Which makes me wonder how many tests did she run before she figured out, oh, this is how we do time travel, so Trunks, we're going to use this one. And of course, to that end, there is a MCU line that fits future Bulma. Future Bulma built us in a cave with a pile of scraps. Present day Bulma, but I'm not future Bulma. Hands of notes, you are now. And of course, speaking of time travel, that whole thing brings up something with the gods, which you can understand it's going to happen. They don't do any punishment, but they're judging, especially Whis, which you can kind of understand why he would be judging, especially since they never thought mortals would be able to manipulate time, but it is a serious offense, even if it did technically make things come out for the better on one end, even if it did kind of, on the other end, create this whole thing. Because I have a feeling that if it wasn't for the multiple timelines, we'd only have one Zamasu in the future, but that's just me thinking that there. Who knows, maybe we would have Goku Black in the future instead of an immortal Zamasu, and then he would have made that body immortal. Who knows? Or maybe his immortality might have transferred bodies, and we'd have an immortal Saiyan god in the future. Now, some people might say it's a little hypocritical for Whis to complain about that because of his little time ability, but remember, he is a supreme being. He is an angel. Angel, mortal. Deity, mortal. Not really the same thing. And since he can do it in only short bursts, it's not like he can go back like thousands of years and change an outcome. Being able to do that on the fly, here there be dragons. But like I said just a little bit ago, you can debate the ethics of it, but Trunks kind of did it for the best. It's just that there's pros and cons with Trunks manipulating time in the manner they did. All in all, this arc is interesting, even though the part I'm about to get to it's going to become a little convoluted with its explanation, especially with some of the rushed power stuff that's going to happen, which this is where the power scaling in the series starts to go a little wonky. I mean, it was a little bit before, but you can at least understand this before, especially with Goku and Vegeta. Oh, they got Divine Ki now. That explains their increase in power. Also explains why Beerus and Whis are so much stronger than everyone else. And then, of course, he's not really technically physically stronger than everyone else. It's just that his time skip ability makes him OP. And, of course, combined with whatever strength he does have, he can. It's just if you could counter his time skip ability, you could beat him. And then, of course, Vegeta with Kaba mainly training him. But after this, it's where it's going to get a little weird. So stay tuned for the part 2 of the Goku Black arc, which will probably be about a month and a half down the road, depending how many episodes are left. But for the first half, up until we find out who Goku Black actually is, I actually like the pacing. I think the mystery of it's interesting. I like how they go about finding out who Goku Black is. The fight scenes, I think, are done pretty well. I mean, the animation in parts could be a little bit better, but it is definitely handled better than the first 2 arcs. I think they're mainly because some aspects of that are rushed, and we're comparing it to fight scenes done on a movie budget, whereas here we're